Welcome back to the Shoot Your Shot podcast. This is a special midweek edition. There's some very new news coming across our desks. We want to update you. So if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, we're going to update you on the Sepia Gate story as it unfolded, 3 months ago now? 4 months ago?
Couple of months for sure.
Yeah.
Probably 2 to 3 at this point. Yeah.
We'll play this clip for you so you can be up to speed.
Get a little reminder on who it is we're speaking about.
Imagine delivering photos to us of the night before our welcome party. Like this. Okay. Like this. But then get delivered photos of your wedding day and you look like this. Like, can someone explain to me what this is? And love this photo, but why are we full sepia tones? Why do I kind of look like I have a little bit of a bruise on my face when it's supposed to be contour and blush? And then why is the sky gray? I mean, it was overcast a little bit, but at the same time, it wasn't that gray. And the ocean is gray. And then I also sent her this image where, if you could tell, my dad's eyes are like this and Mike's eyes is like this. Every image that is shot in this moment, everyone's eyes are squinty like this. If it's too sunny, change our location. And let me give you another example. This was someone took this picture on their iPhone, but look how gorgeous the color of my mom's dress is, okay? It's this beautiful pink, stunning. And this is the color that she turned it into. It's gorgeous, it's fine, but she wasn't wearing coral. You know what I mean? Why change this? Why put your edits to change the entire?
All right, I think we get the idea here. This is a TikTok from Alexander J that blew up over 2.4 million views.
There were so many iterations of this. There were so many. 17
of these, I think, in total, maybe 20.
57, 39. There were a lot of updates.
It became worldwide news a little bit in the wedding and portrait industry.
And beyond, really.
Blew up this photographer's page, too. It became a whole trend, basically, for the summer. Sepia Gate. So we have news from this
Alexandra
bride.
herself.
We also did a full episode on it, episode 18, if you want to take a look at that. There's a clip I think we pulled that kind of sums up how we felt about it in a certain way that maybe is a bit, precognitive. We kind of predicted some things here. We dug in a bit into the psychology of maybe what this bride was going through mentally, and we'll play it for you now.
I don't know. There's obviously a disconnect. There's a disconnect from what clients are seeing as the portfolio image versus what they're getting.
In this customer, this bride's particular instance, for sure. Yeah.
And one of the things that I do think is really important to point out is once a client finds something they dislike in their photos and you don't remedy it. Mm-hmm. We've had this happen before. I've had this happen before. Once you don't remedy it quickly and make them say, okay, thank God, we're all good there.
Yeah.
Because usually it's something small.
They will stew.
And you know what they'll do? This girl actually said in her text messages, not Alex, this Sepia Bride. She said, I've gone through these photos 2,000 times. Okay, so she's gone through the photos 2,000 times. That's obviously an exaggeration. I hope to God. Maybe it's not. What do we know?
Maybe it's not.
Do you know what she's going to do? She's going to start to find other things that are wrong with them.
Yeah.
In 1,000+ image galleries, I promise you're going to find something wrong. Some more things went wrong in her life that weren't just her wedding photos. Before we dive into our thoughts on this, and we will do this in as kind and as understanding of a way as possible, we are not here to stomp on anyone's grave. We did that in episode 18. We are here to dive into what Alexandra J. Condor, and to clarify, I said in that last clip from episode 18, that wasn't Alex. That was actually one of our followers, our listeners. Right. That was from the Sepia Bride herself saying she has looked at those images 2,000 times. Yes. So Alexandra J. Condor has come back to TikTok with a little bit of an update, and here it is. For those of you who are just listening and not watching, this is a TikTok of Alex dancing, saying, when you're not sure how to use this app anymore after you went viral for your wedding photos, but are now going through a divorce.
So Alex is going through a divorce. This is news as far as what, today?
Yeah. I saw this first thing this morning. Yeah. Taylor brought it to my attention, was like, oh, did you see the Sepia Bride's getting a divorce?
But we're not here to sensationalize things and profit, so to speak, whether it's
There's
in views or
$0
monetary value. Yeah, we don't make any money.
Coming this way.
On this person's relationship going forward. That's not what we're here to do. What we thought would be a good idea is to dive into some of the speculations that we have from how this happened, and also what you can do as a customer service person, as a photographer, to kind of notice these things.
Like maybe some lessons that we could learn
some
here.
Some takeaways here.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things I first want to say is correlation and causation are not the same thing.
No.
We aren't here to say that every bride who has problems with their wedding photos is going to be divorced. That's obviously not what we were saying.
Not
very much not what we're saying. Yeah. Does it cause it? No. Is there a correlation, Tim?
Probably. Yeah, I'd say so.
We have absolutely no way of ever quantifying that.
No, we can never do the math.
Never interview enough photographers and enough couples to find out, were you unhappy with your wedding photos? Did you get divorced within 7 months of your wedding? And actually it wasn't 7 months. So I've made some notes, Tim.
Okay, please.
I've made some notes for us just because I think the people like context.
Sure.
So the first thing in my notes that I do want to iterate is that I cannot express how sad I am and for her family, because I don't want that to get lost in the deep dive that we will inevitably do. Divorce is sad.
Yeah.
You got married to this person truly believing that you were going to spend the rest of your life with them. I have no idea how long she was with her husband for.
No.
But it's a loss regardless. And that's obviously incredibly sad.
Yeah.
They were married November of 2023. She started posting 7 months after their wedding. So the timing of that, I think, is important because a lot of people were already questioning what is your motivation behind even sharing all of this at this stage. And she goes into a little bit of her motivation was because people were asking her for recommendations on photographers. And she was basically starting out in a small way to share with her own clients and friends, like, well, here's some things you should look out for. And maybe you should do a little bit of a deeper dive into their portfolio, etc.
Right.
So you don't end up in the position that I found myself in.
And then people are probably like, hey, you should share this. This is interesting.
Probably, right? Yeah. And then she shared part 1 and it went crazy. And then she shared part 2 and 3. And finally, this girl who used to be getting like 1,200 views per TikTok is getting hundreds of thousands on every single one.
Yeah.
So my first thing that I'd like to say here is that when I saw this, I wondered if there wasn't more to the story.
Okay. Tell me more.
Is she bored?
Yeah.
Is she desperate for attention and views that she's so willing to put a huge black mark on her wedding, and by way of her wedding, her marriage? And of course, weddings and marriages are not the same thing. We all know that. You and I know that. We see a lot of very great weddings with marriages that we're a little concerned with. I shouldn't say a lot. We see some of them. We actually see a lot in the inverse relation of some really weird weddings that are like phenomenal couples and really great marriages. So we know that they're not like hand in hand.
Yeah, they don't necessarily go together all the time.
But my initial reaction was like, why are you so okay with having this like black mark on your wedding?
Well, let's talk about that.
Like, that's a bummer, man. That's a real freaking bummer to put this black mark on what's supposed to be a delightful day that you get to look back on with really fond memories.
Yeah. And you had an experience with your wedding, you and Taylor's wedding in Mexico, where it could have become something like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ours could have gone crazy.
Talk about
truly.
that, because I'm not sure everyone on the podcast knows the drama surrounding your wedding.
we didn't have a photo problem. Let me start there. I think I have mentioned before that our wedding venue double booked our wedding with a bluegrass music festival and knowingly did that. It wasn't a mistake. It was a very conscious decision that they made. And they consciously decided to not tell us until 4 weeks before the wedding, when we were really left with very few options as to what we could do. Yeah. We also, just like this bride, had a destination wedding. Yeah. So there are implications in a destination wedding that aren't necessarily included in a wedding where people aren't traveling in for. Like maybe in a regular wedding, like 4 or 5 people are flying in for it. Yeah. Not literally every person coming to your wedding is flying in for your wedding. So Taylor and I had this like really like huge bummer dropped on us 4 weeks before our wedding. And it was really sad. And the one thing that I remember saying, and I have a recording of the whole thing because I had to have a phone conversation with like executives at the resort, which is a large company. And the thing that I remember saying to them was, I want to like you guys. I really do. I want to look back on this fondly, and I don't want this to become a thing where I had to get nasty and I had to make this bad for us. And thankfully, they did handle this in a really good way that we were happy with, that none of us had to go on social media and blast them. But like everyone in our wedding party was involved in the wedding industry in some way or another.
Yeah.
We flew in vendors to Mexico for flowers, for DJ, for everything. So it's like you've got all of these people that are very well versed in the wedding world. I don't think we're the ideal people for you to screw with right now in this scenario. It sounds like spooky. So they did make some good choices. They made it right for us.
Yep.
We felt like, okay, I'm still pissed about the scenario that you guys intentionally did this to us, not just to us, to every person staying at that resort that had to get moved, and they didn't find out 4 weeks before. They found out when they checked in.
Yeah, so the double booking happened where the next day after the wedding, they had all the rooms booked up at the same hotel. So essentially how it worked out is we had to move hotels to a sister hotel, literally like 15-minute drive down the street, not very far. But logistically it was like, okay, wedding, go to bed at some time in the night, wake up, move hotels for the last 3 days.
Check out by noon, right?
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing thank you for clarifying that. I feel like I've told that story to so many people that I often forget so basically what their offer was for us to just not get married at the place that we had been planning to get married for at this point 2 years. Taylor and I had done a bunch of destination weddings. We'd actually done a destination wedding at the resort that they wanted to move us to. And it's beautiful. But the entire reason we wanted to do a destination wedding was because we wanted to do it at a place that didn't feel like work. And that would immediately feel like work. You'd be like, this was actually one of the first destination weddings I ever shot. So that's weird. Yeah. And also it was just a totally different vibe. The venue we were getting married at was like a jungle, and that one was like Miami Vice. Like
very much so. It was cool, but not the vibe.
It was just not the vibe. And I was like, well, like all the decor, my wedding dress, the bridesmaids dresses, like all of it was based on this venue. And that's not going to work for us over here. So their option was everybody moves over to this resort for the entire week and your wedding. Or for the first 4 days you're at this resort, you have the wedding on day 3 or 4. Maybe it was early on. And then we moved, and then we moved to the resort the day after the wedding because they literally had a grandstand, like a huge stage set up, like scaffolding, like massive, massive thing going on. And I have seen couples get bogged down in the details in my own, professional world, to the point that I'm like, are you enjoying this? Like, is this fun for you anymore? Or did you just turn this thing that was supposed to be really nice and lovely into something really sad? Yeah. And you made a thing that, like, of course we all want to worry about the details and the money and all the stuff that we spent, but that's supposed to be in addition to the wedding itself. That's supposed to be what makes your wedding yours and special and beautiful. But if you take those details and you make those the most important part of the day, then the thing that really is the most important, which is you and your partner getting married and celebrating with your family and friends in a really nice and loving way, that no longer can happen. So if after your wedding you have a black mark on your wedding day for any number of reasons, whether it be the photographer, the venue, the, family drama that occurs, any number of reasons, that's so sad. Like, that's just genuinely sad. And I feel for those couples that have that happen. And it's part of the reason why in episode 18, when we dove deep into this, we didn't just roast the bride, we roasted the photographer. We said, how did you not resolve this? Like, how did you not get to a resolution? Because I mean, again, we were not in that conversation. We were not these people that were involved in it.
We just saw some receipts.
But we really felt like there was some customer service that could have gone into this scenario that could have maybe resolved this ahead of time. But to bring it back to my question about the bride and the groom. It is a bride and a groom, Alex and I think it was Mike, and I only know that because she posted his name on here before. In her 18-part series, she mentioned my husband. She used the word husband 1 time. And we know this because we
watched them all.
We watched every single one, and we actually put them in our last deep dive episode.
Yep.
And we have the transcripts for our last episode. So I typed in, because I was just trying to find, like, was there any indication of this? Like, did we see this?
Yeah.
She actually used the term husband 1 time, and the way in which she used it was, she said, my husband called on my behalf and cried to her on my behalf. Which brings up another thing that I would like to discuss about sort of what I would consider to be a typical, and we use this with such a grain of salt, but a typical bride and groom relationship to a wedding.
Yeah.
This is after 10 plus years of doing this. So, like, don't come for me and say that's, like, so gendered of you. I don't make these rules. These are the ones that come to us.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, the bride is the one that cares about the wedding itself. The guy wants to marry her. He's happy about marrying her.
Yeah.
I literally just had a groom last weekend in tears to me, so happy. And he said, I just wanted to say thank you for making this day go so well. I was so worried that something would go wrong and that my bride wouldn't be happy.
Yeah.
That's what I find most dudes want. And I'm not trying to say
overgeneralize.
Women. Yeah, and I'm not trying to say women are shitty and we only want to care about the details. No, it's just that women have put their hearts and souls into these days.
Yeah.
They have spent so much money, so much time, and a lot of the time these guys are along for the ride. So the best thing that they can do is do whatever it takes to make sure that the plan that they had really not a lot of part in doing and executing goes well.
Yeah.
And so I imagine that probably wasn't much different in this scenario. So he's the one saying, she's saying he's calling the photographer on her behalf and crying to the photographer saying, please just make this right. He doesn't understand editing and lighting.
Care.
He's not a makeup artist. He doesn't give a shit. He just wants his wife to stop fucking talking about this.
Sounds like it.
And he's like, how do I make this go away?
Do you feel like maybe some of that, that unease in their relationship towards the photographer and the end result images, her blowing up on TikTok, 1,700 views a goddamn TikTok. Do you think some of that parlayed into their relationship crumbling, or do you think it was before? Like, there's obviously, we'll never know. We're just speculating, but I can't imagine that would be
my personal speculation.
Yeah, please.
There's 2 options here. One of them is that there was rocky territory beforehand, and that because they were having a destination wedding, he was like, what are we going to do? Tell 50 people to not come to Mexico with us anymore? Like, you can't cancel a wedding when everybody is going there and they've spent thousands of dollars and they maybe have non-refundable trips booked. Like, are they all going to go on this non-wedding trip together? Both sides of your family, all of your friends?
So if there was problems before, they weren't going to be surfaced.
If there were, they maybe were ignored.
Okay.
And the only reason I think that there had to have been problems beforehand is because she moved out the last... Here's some more receipts for you.
Here we go.
The last time that we see her ring in her TikToks, and she's got a big one. She's got a big honking diamond on her hand. So it's hard to miss. The last time that I saw it in a TikTok was August 11th. We're currently at the end of September. Okay. And she got married in November. So from November to August, somewhere in there, trouble hit.
Well, that's exactly where the TikToks exploded.
And somewhere... I wish I knew what day the TikTok started, but I think that they were June, July.
Okay.
So the TikTok start June, July.
Yeah.
You're not wearing your ring by August. I mean, correlation or causation, Timbo? Did you make such a sad
world for yourself?
You literally spiraled. Just like she said, she looked at these photos 2,000 times. So she was spiraling long before the TikTok started.
Yeah.
Because nobody in their right mind looks at their photos 2,000 times. And even if that's an exaggeration, she's trying to iterate to this photographer. I have obsessed over these. I have looked at them so many times. I've poured over them, and I can't tell you how unhappy I am with them.
Yeah.
So many people are looking at them being like, I don't know, they're pretty nice. I still feel like there was a solution that could have been had there between her and the photographer that wasn't had, but that's a totally neither here nor there situation. The conversation now is, did your 37-part series on TikTok trashing your wedding photos
have something to do with your relationship on a bigger scale?
Here's
We'll never know.
what we always say to him. Whenever a client comes to us with like what we think is an abnormal level of pickiness, what's going on in your world? Usually it's what's going on in your world. I want to know, like, after a wedding, we are the only thing that they have left to think about, right? So if you have had the proverbial treadmill of life happening for you so far, I talk about this all the time. So forgive me if you've heard this before. I guarantee you have. A lot of the time, we as human beings get on this treadmill of, okay, I went to grade school, high school. In high school, I tried to get into a good college or university. In college and university, the goal for me was to, get a great job, find a good man, and hopefully settle down into this really beautiful life, whatever that looks like for you, a house, some kids, a dog. You're going and going and going. And after you decide, okay, I'm going to get married and settle down, and what happens after all of the attention of you got engaged, you got married, what happens when all of that attention goes away? You're left with like a bit of an empty sadness in your heart. Most of us fill that with other meaningful things in our life, or we continue working on what's hopefully already a really solid relationship. But for some people, and I don't even think it's a small amount of people, I think it's probably a large amount of people, a lot of people end up with this like, well, what now? I might go and start causing a shitstorm in areas of my life that didn't need to have a shitstorm. Because this isn't how I pictured this to go. I wanted, the same level of attention and care in my whole life as I was just given when you're riding the high of bridal showers, of bachelorette parties, of wedding excitement, of gifts and gifts and gifts and gifts. And this girl had so much attention given to her by an abnormal, there's going to be studies, and I know that they're probably already happening, of what happens to people when they are one-hit wonders on TikTok and on socials, of what that does to you internally. She basically has just extended her wedding attention into the next year. But what happens when her husband can't ever provide for her the same level of excitement that TikTok views and comments give her?
Exactly. And
he could never possibly.
Back to the treadmill of things, like people check these boxes all through life, whether it's, college, get engaged, married, kids, all these things. They check these boxes based on boxes that they've seen checked by people that they know and love in their lives. And then you get to a point where the real work happens in relationships, when you have to spend, and you get to spend every day with the person you love. And those moments aren't as documented in a public way where it's every day's, champagne popping and, streamers from the ceiling. It becomes about the real work of relationship and understanding how to live and coexist with someone and go through those hard times. All the things you mentioned in your vows, better for worse,
do them now.
You have to kind of do those things.
And you have to do them without the attention.
A template or attention or any kind of glamorization of your world anymore. It becomes about day in, day out, and whether you're in it or not in it, you're essentially in it. You have to be in it, or you have to get out. And not having that understanding, and not being able to look to something else as a reference point, it can be sad for a lot of people. And divorce is real. We don't talk about divorce as wedding industry people. It's one of those things we don't really talk about. Because we're not on that side of the services we provide, but it's a very real thing. The stats are in. Canada's a bit lower. We're, I think, second to last in the G7 countries.
Oh, okay,
since
that's
2020.
good for
I did
us.
some research. America's a lot higher, I think, just based on per capita. But it's a real thing that happens to a high percentage of people after they get married. And it's weird that we don't talk about it.
It is weird. And I think, honestly, I feel like we in our social circles talk about it fairly often because we are like, hey, remember that wedding that we shot? Yeah, they're divorced. My entire portfolio book from my first year of weddings, every single person in that book is divorced.
Wow.
That, I think, has to do with the age of the clients that I was shooting. I don't think I don't think I was the curse there. I don't think that I was the.
You are the common denominator, Lindsay.
I was the only one. But we don't talk about divorce in this industry often, and like for good reason.
Why would we? Yeah.
Nobody wants to be like, hey, you want to hire me for your wedding? I'm really well versed in how this could end.
Yeah, we know how. Statistically, this is a waste of money for you.
I truly believe in marriage and I believe in weddings, and I think that it can be a really great, meaningful thing for a lot of people, for their families, for couples. But it's not to say that we haven't seen the shitty side of this.
Yeah.
And in my experience, there is a correlation between people that are absolutely and I'm going to say neurotic about the level of detail that goes into their planning, not in a lighthearted and fun way. I was very detail oriented with my wedding. So I don't want my couples to think like there's a difference between detail oriented and having high standards and neurotic. Yeah. Neurotic is when you're like, that doesn't matter. This girl's literally saying it looks like there's a bruise on my face. I'm like, no, babe, it just looks like bad editing. It's just like, that's the contour you had on your face. And the tone went from slightly cool to slightly warm. And the warmth made it have that. Like, that's kooky at this point. Yeah. She's sending the photographer fucking page after page after page. Like, we saw it in the very first one. She's literally showing her notes where she, like, go back the like 20 seconds, maybe not even, where she's got, it looks like a Word doc. No, there. She's got like a doc file here where she's made notes on it.
My dark eyes are closed.
No, my dad's eyes are closed. So are Mike's ? There's no better photo ?
Again, we trust you as a photographer to have the right shot, right lighting, and for our eyes to be open.
And that's just like, honestly, we're getting mean for no real reason here. You could literally just say, is there a better photo here? Their eyes are closed.
Yeah.
And to which the photographer could then say, I can do a face swap. It's $10 a face. Like, there are solvable problems here, but it just seemed like she didn't want her problems to be solved. She wanted them to be heard. So perhaps she wasn't feeling heard in her own personal life. Yeah. She was feeling like, Mike, why aren't you listening to me? These are problems. This is really big to me. Like, this matters to me. Yeah. And he's like, I don't give a shit. And her friends are like, move on. Your wedding's over. Your photos are beautiful. You looked gorgeous. Yeah. Like, we're on to the next girl's wedding already. And
maybe that's not enough for her. Because there's some things.
Or maybe Mike's an absolute loser machine and he's been cheating on her since also 2022. We have zero clue. We have
zero context, zero clue. We only know what we see. It's
very possible that Mike's an absolute 10 out of 10 wiener. And the reason why she was spiraling is because she married an asshole. Like, you know that saying, are you depressed or are you just surrounded by assholes? Maybe that's poor Alex. And maybe Alex is going to be the star of another TikTok series where she comes out and she says, my husband was cheating on me with my best friend of 30 years. We don't know.
Maybe she's on Love Island next season.
We simply don't know. All we know is what she's told us, and then we know our own experiences. Yes. And our own experiences are that at times there is a correlation. So what I would like to say for the photographers who are listening, because I would assume that's pretty much
most of you, hopefully.
Most of you that are listening, you're photographers. When a client comes to you with a problem and they are saying, I've got an issue here, and it seems unreasonable, and the first thing you always want to question is, like, first of all, can I solve this? Is this bigger than me? Is this bigger than our scenario here, photographer, whatever relations? And if it seems really like absolutely wild, never take it personally. Whether it's wild or not wild, just don't take these things personally. I think that's what it really needs to come down to, because we have no idea what is going on in their lives. We don't, right? We have no idea if she is nitpicking about this because it's the last thing that she has control over in a situation where she doesn't feel like she has a lot of control.
Yeah.
We are control-driven human beings. We really like to feel like things are buttoned up and things are working. And probably going through what she self-described as as the hardest few months of her life, that probably started when about the TikTok started spiraling, and then her relationship started spiraling, and now here we are. When all of that's going out of control, what do? You obsess and you obsess and you obsess and you obsess over the things that you feel like you do have control over still. Yeah. And she's feeling like, okay, well, I couldn't solve this for myself. The photos were out of my hands. I couldn't help that. My photographer wouldn't listen to me, which is shitty.
Yeah.
And then her husband wouldn't listen to her, and that's shitty. And so she's saying, what can I control? Well, I can control my own narrative, and I can go and tell other women to not become the victim of a photographer who doesn't care about you. And it'll be really interesting to see how this unfolds. Like she said in her TikTok, she's trying to figure out how to navigate this app after she went viral for her wedding photos. And now she's going through a divorce. I think she's probably going to do pretty well, to be honest with you.
Because I think Talk to a Girl did pretty well.
Talk to a Girl did really well for way worse shit. I think also, here's what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
Can we
prediction.
predict it?
I would love to know a prediction for you. I have a prediction as well. I think we already
Oh,
spilled
okay,
it, but
okay.
yeah, go for it.
My prediction is she's going to get a lot of 50-50 like she did with her initial stuff. She's going to get half people supporting her saying, so sorry to hear about your divorce. And honestly, she pissed off a lot of people. She ruffled a lot of feathers, and she really offended an entire industry of people and the business and artwork that we create for people. And she's probably going to, unfortunately, see some pretty unhappy people through that.
Okay.
She might see some people saying, told you so. We knew that this was about more than this, whatever, right? Like that was my immediate reaction. I made a comment and then I immediately deleted it because I was like, this is not me. I don't know why I just reacted like this. But I was like, my thinking was just like, obviously pain and sadness for you. That's awful. But kind of like, well, we knew that.
Yeah.
It was very apparent to me as a vet in the wedding industry. It was very apparent to me that this is not just about your wedding photos.
And I think being a veteran allows us a bit of like latitude to understand people's psychology and the way that they make decisions based on, external factors and maybe a little bit of internal factors, because we see a lot on the wedding. It's a high stakes day. A lot of people are, putting a lot into this day, whether it's, they're emotionally, how they dress, showing up, money, a shit ton of money goes into these days. So you get to kind of see people's raw form a little bit. And, we're pretty good judges of people's character.
But I do think that this is I think if she isn't in the depths of depression, which is very possible, she's been making a lot of TikToks still for consistently over the past few months while she's been going through this separation. If she's not in a total state of depression, I do feel like she can really pivot this into like, if you have a lot of brides following you, eventually you're going to have a lot of divorcees following you.
Yeah.
So she could pivot this into divorce talk. She could pivot this into single woman back on the streets talk.
Yep.
She could pivot this into millennial who blew up my life talk. I don't know. I'm really curious to see how she handles it. I recommend this for everyone. Therapy could be really good for Alexandra. I think therapy could be really great for Mike. Who knows? We could think he's a great guy. We could think he's an absolute dirtbag. Therapy's great for everybody at the end of the day. And I think it would be really great to do some introspection. How did this happen? Why did this happen? Why did I do this?
Yeah.
And, do I think that creating viral TikToks means you're like an attention-seeking monster? No, we have a fucking podcast.
What's up? You subscribed.
It's just the content of the virality that really bothered me, because I do feel like, honestly, you and I probably could have gone viral multiple times over if we just spun some shit that we didn't want to spin, to be honest. Like the dirt that we could tell, the people that we could rat out, the lies that we could rat. Oh my gosh.
I don't want to. That's not what this show is about.
And it would not feel good in my heart.
I couldn't sleep well.
And I wouldn't be married. Honestly, truthfully, I wouldn't be married because the person that I married values a certain level of like, okay, let's create things that get popular and get views because people enjoy them and they make them happy and they're great and they're meaningful. And
the plus side of things, not the negative side.
They create value, right? Like the creative act, Rick Rubin, you know what I mean? We're talking about like what's adding to the world.
Yes.
This shit's not adding to the world.
This is where my prediction comes in. The fact that she is still using the same platform she used to blow up her, her wedding experience in a negative way to showcase all the things that didn't go well on her wedding day, i.e. the photos. And it seems like it's stemming into a deeper part of her relationship with her now ex-husband. She jumped on TikTok to let the whole world know that she's no longer married. And how do you, parlay an app experience for which made you viral for a wedding going wrong into a relationship ending. I think because of the fact that she was able to quickly jump into this onto the double negative side of getting divorced. I mean, divorce isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing in the end of the day. You're no longer with a person
You
that
should
didn't
be
work
divorced
out.
if you're,
It's a good
married
thing.
to the wrong person.
But
for sure.
the fact that she jumped into it right away means I predict a podcast of some kind where she talks about divorce. She tries to debunk the wedding industry. She'll do something negative because that seems to be her lane. And then I do think she'll be on Love Island for next season, just because I feel like she's in LA. She's got to be in California. I imagine she is. She's
She's
right?
Canadian, actually,
She's
but
Canadian?
she's I forget where she's located. I do think maybe California though, because they
feel
got
like it's
married in
California.
Cabo, so that just
Yeah.
feels like the right coast. But
I do think it's going to be, she'll be on reality TV. She looks great. Like she's not a
she looks
bad looking
phenomenal.
person.
No, and I said that from day one.
Yeah.
She's a gorgeous girl. She has fantastic, aesthetic. She knows what looks good. She was the classic. She has a beautiful beige house. Like,
She can talk to a microphone.
yeah,
She'll do great.
she has villain energy for sure. Like if she was on Love Island, wow, actually that's so good, Tim. Your prediction's so much better than mine.
We'll see. This is just from my perspective of what I've seen and what might happen.
Alex, get
End of the
yourself
day,
an
get an
agent,
agent.
girl.
I'm sure someone's reached out.
I told you get a therapist. Tim says get an agent.
Alex,
Either would be great for you.
regardless, our hearts go out to you and your family's divorce is tough. We just found out how much divorce lawyers cost in Canada. And it's
We just heard.
outrageous.
Not
It's
because of
insane.
either of us.
No. I'm still engaged and Lindsay's still married.
Yeah, thankfully.
So it's crazy.
But we did just find out how much divorce lawyers cost, and wow, I don't envy
We're
you.
the wrong industry. We're
I
the
don't
wrong
envy
side.
you at all.
Should we pivot?
Should we pivot?
Probably not. Can we do both? Can we double dip?
I don't think
that feels
I want
unethical.
to.
Thank you so much for being here, liking, commenting, subscribing. I know it's kind of a midweek departure from our usual.
We felt that we need to give you the update.
We needed to, and also I know it's a very negative thing. The whole thing with Alex has been a bit negative. We're trying to find the light in it and trying to help you as a photographer understand that when people complain about things, whether it's their photos, whether it's their experience with you, it's probably a deeper issue. It's something a bit more closer to their heart that they're not really showing, because the complaining and the unhappiness is a symptom of a deeper issue for the most part, likely, unless you suck. But you probably don't suck because you're watching the show and you're great.
That was a really nice, neat, tidy up ending there, Tim. I really appreciated that. Speaking of spooky things.
Ooh!
Speaking of spooky stories, which I would say this is a grade A spooktacular story. Spooktacular. This is what we mean when we're talking about spooky stories. We are talking about, I love Tim's mug, 100% that witch. Tim and I are currently, for those of you listening, we are bringing out Halloween-themed mugs. If you are a photographer with a spooky story, a scary tale to share, either your own personal Sepia Gate or maybe it's a time that you screwed up and that was something scary. I'll give you a couple of options
Maybe you're in
that are
Casa
from
Loma
my
and
own
you
life.
saw a ghost,
Maybe
like a literal ghost.
Maybe you took a photo and you're not sure if that's an orb or if that's a literal ghost. Maybe your scary story is the time that you dropped a wedding band down a deck board
that sounds
an hour before a ceremony.
specific, Lindsay.
It's weird. I know somebody that might have done that. That was a scary story. I know another scary story of a couple that maybe hired us to do a glass bottom boat wedding, and then they covered the glass bottom with a dessert table. That was spooky. Like that's lighthearted spooky. Oh wait, no, it did get spookier because they had a band that only knew breakup songs. So that was a funny evening for us all. I want to hear your spookiest of stories. It could be the time that your clients didn't pay you and you had to get lawyers involved. It could be the time that honestly, it makes me even sick to even say this. This is how scary it is. The time you lost files.
Oh, corrupt.
And you had to deal with that. The time you shot an entire wedding in JPEG. I'm just spitballing ideas here because I want you to understand what we're looking for.
Yes.
We are doing a Halloween month
of spooky
a
oogie.
month of spooky stories. We're going to share some of our own. We're going to share some of other people's. We're going to share some crazy shit that's going on in the wedding industry right now in Ontario with wedding photographers that are ghosting their clients. Do you like what I did there?
I loved it.
Spooky.
So reach out with your spooky stories too at the Shoot Your Shot podcast on Instagram. Slide into our DMs. We fixed it. Anyone can reach us now.
Our
It's
DMs are
completely
working.
open. DMs are open, or wide open like our phone lines. Send us your stories. We can keep it anonymous if you want to be a ghost, or full chest. We can also just, share your story because.
And if you ever need to workshop it, if you're like, I've got an idea, but we need some help,
We'll help
let
you.
us know. We love to parlay on a story. We love to help you out. So just send us a quick little DM first, and then we can help you figure out how you're going to send it to us, what medium, if it's going to be a video, if it's going to be a voice note, if it's just going to be a text, whatever you want. We are down to clown. We're open to chat with you. We want to share all of your scariest stories. And we have some doozies already lined up that we are dying to share with you.
Have a good week, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.